Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Price List Update Summary video series brought to you by Actionable Insights. You've got Harrison here, you've got Whatley there, and you've got Stone there. And we're here to talk about the new line items that were added to the Xactimate price list in February 2024. What's going on, gentlemen? How are we doing today?
Doing great.
Excellent.
Love to hear it.
Wouldn't it be weird if I told you I was doing terrible?
That would be weird. We try to be positive in these recordings, so that would be weird.
So I'm doing
great. How excited I am. No, this is exciting. We're recording right before the Verisk Elevate conference, which is happening probably the week before we posted this. Actionable is sponsoring. I am speaking on stage with Verisk, with Rob Harrell from Verisk, about Exact Expert and the Actionable profile. So I will encourage you right now, if you didn't get a chance to check out Elevate, be sure to check out social media, whether it's coming from Verisk or Actionable Insights, to see all kinds of information around the keynotes, what's happening with Verisk, what is Xactimate up to. So this is always an exciting month, February, for people that use Xactimate to see what's going on. All right, without further ado, let's jump into the 11 new line items this month.
New line items.
The first 5 line items this month are in the HMR category. Let's start here with HMR, Base B, Base D, and alike. These are for tearing out oversized baseboard or baseboard detaching in the HMR category. Wadley, we have seen these line items in the WTR category for years. What are your thoughts about these new additions about removing or detaching baseboard in the HMR category?
Yeah, thinking back to a decade ago, talking to the price list executives, they would consistently resist adding additional line items that existed in other categories. The thought was you could just reach across the aisle and go pull from the WTR category. Problem is twofold. With all the program work, TPA work, that is frowned upon, doing what you and I call a cross-category inclusion, when you're conflating a WTR
trying to write a W
with an HMR category.
Exactly.
That's not great. And then also with the advent of all of these automation tools that leverage some version of AI, they are flagging these for additional review when you've got all these cross-category conclusions. So in reaction to that, what you've seen the price of this department doing, and I think for the last 6 months, Harrison, we've seen HMR line items that would commonly be used. They won't do all of them from WTR, but the ones that would commonly be used with HMR are just getting adopted here. That's what we're seeing with those first 3. And that's exactly what we see with 4 and 5. If you don't mind, I'll just flow right into 4 and 5.
So HMR, these are lay flat ducting, HMR DUCTLF line items in the HMR category.
Yeah, so previously Stone's team had rules for if there's a negative air machine with an HMR category, it may be warranted to include lay flat ducking from the WTR category. These will be updated to HMR this month, and so to keep them within the same category. So check. That's done. That's also nice, Harrison, because it constrains erroneous overages associated with the labor minimums tab. Sometimes when you include a line item that included labor, then it's going to trigger the labor minimum. So this generally constrains that. Do keep in mind the lay flat ducking here as described in line items 4 and 5. That is for your positive air side of your negative air scrubber. There is still a coil ductwork for within the WTR category. Harrison, that might be prudent for you to remind the powers that be that in the same vein, they might want to bring over the coil ductwork as well into the HMR category. And the coil ductwork, guys, would be used on the negative side of the negative air scrubber. And the coil has enough rigidity to not collapse when it's on the negative air side, unlike the lay flat.
That's a great
on the positive side.
That's a great thing to call out. If you're not aware, if this is one of your first Priceless Update Summary videos, hey, what's up? We're Actionable Insights. And we advocate on everyone's behalf with the pricing department. If something's happening in the field, contractors are doing something, and there's no Xactimate line item for it, it tends to complicate the claim, all in all. So when things are happening in certain areas and there needs to be a line item for it, we like to work with the pricing department just to say, hey, there seems to be a need here. And then we leave it to the pricing department to make the decision on whether or not that line item is warranted to add or not. So Whatley, you mentioned this. Lay flat ducting many years ago was a line item that did not exist in the WTR category.
Yeah.
That was something that we advocated for and talked with the pricing department about the need for it.
Yeah, we just
And it's
did it
nice
to
see
smooth out
years
claim
later.
settlement. It wasn't done with a contractor bias. It was just, this is creating a mess in claim settlement. What were restorers doing 5 years ago? They were including an HVC coil ducking that included labor and materials by linear foot from the
Yeah.
HVC category. And they were using that within a WTR water loss, right? Associated with a negative Verisk cover. Nothing good about that. That's an overage. That line item is paying too much, but it was the closest available. So when the pricing department, when this stuff gets brought to light, they try to include line items at this point that just create smoother and better claim outcomes. That's the principal objective, and Actionable's fallen in line in that regard.
Exactly. All right. 2 new line items in the WTR category. This is GRMS and GRMS-A for applying mold/mildew stain remover. Stone, we've had WTR GRMB and GRMBA for applying antimicrobial. What's the difference with these mold, mildew, stain remover line items?
Exactly. This is not the antimicrobial agent line items that we've been utilizing. This is a mold, mildew, stain remover. It's becoming more common in our industry to apply these to wood substrates to remove that staining.
Well said. All right. If you're doing some kind of a mold, mildew, stain remover, there are new W2 line items for you to use. All right, 3 new line items here in the masonry category around MAS PAVF. There's also a standard grade and a high grade version of these line items, but these are around paver flagstones. Now, a couple months ago, actually probably closer to a year ago, we saw just paver line items, MAS PAV, but now we have PAVF and a couple variants of it for paver flagstones. So if you need those in your claim, there are now line items that exist for it. Lastly, we have one more line item here in the fee category. It is fee FL for fuel per gallon. Now, we have had a line item similar to this already. I'm going to jump ahead to the section where we talk about changes to existing line items, where I can just point out there has been a propane fuel line item for quite some time. And when we look at this line item here, it comes with a description and an assigned price from my local San Diego price list here, around saying, hey, cost of propane fuel plus a markup of 20% to cover time to refill tanks and the cost of the tanks. This item is based on the average regional cost, and Verisk recommends users verify local costs and make adjustments as needed. So taking a look at the new line item here for fuel per gallon, there is no price assigned to it. This is a $0 line item. And when you click on the detail, it says, to be used if necessary with items that specifically exclude fuel, like temporary generators, trailer-mounted dehues, etc. So, Whatley, what are your thoughts here on this new fee fuel line item? How are people supposed to be using it?
Well, I think the reservation for why this wasn't included before is important to point out. The intention of this price list is not every time you've got a dry out and you're deploying 2 dehues and 6 air movers is to augment it with 16 gallons of gas. Those are built into your vehicle, van line items or otherwise, and that's not a warranted inclusion. What this line item exists for is especially a catastrophe environment where you're deploying trailer mounted dehumidifiers, temp generators. There was really no great way to do that before. As I understood it, like restorers were biasing propane generators just because there was actually a line item for it. Keep in mind there is no price with this line item, so a little bit different than the propane. But I think it would be warranted if you're paying for $5 a gallon California gas, then rounding up to $6 to account for the additional labor, loss of efficiency associated with fueling in that kind of environment. I think that's reasonable. So just borrowing from the model from the propane.
All right, well said. I know a lot of people out there will see a new line item fuel. Where can we apply this? Where can I charge for my gas, right? But it's good to be clear that there are line items that already include gas where this would not be appropriate. Reminder for anyone that hasn't checked it out yet, we have a profile in Xactimate called the Actionable profile that has live estimating guidance with little alerts that pop up in this right side drawer here that will remind you of the things that you should be including or potential mistakes you might be making. So be sure that in about a week or two, there will be new rules in the profile around this line item, fee fuel, and when it should be applied, and then remind you, hey, fuel is already included in this line item. It may not be appropriate to charge for additional fuel in this scenario, but if you do, be sure to justify why. All right. That's it, gentlemen. That's the 11 new line items that were added to the Xactimate price list in February 2024. Let's go check out the changes.
Checking out the changes.
All right, 5 existing line items in Xactimate had changes this month in February. Let's take a look at the first 2 around drywall. Drywall 5/8 ready for paint line items. Now, you'll note, first of all, there were no yield or supporting event changes this month. We're just looking at changes to the additional item information that clarify what a line item was intended for. And if I take a look at the details here of dry 5/8 to look at these 2 side by side, you'll notice that the quality note is much longer. It used to just say this and say, for complete skims coat, go here. But what it now says, it says, hey, this item is intended to account for the type of finish, which is the most common simple finish in each market. Simple and common finishes can vary between regions, between a smooth taped finish, a simple hand, and or a simple spray texture. This item is intended to account for any of these situations. Simple and common finish of drywall includes the following finish process: tape coat, first coat, second coat, and a final prep for a paint finish. The final step may be sanding and touch-up or hand applied or sprayed on orange peel texture. Okay. Whatley, we've seen this language before. Many years ago, we were looking at the drywall LF line items. And in those line items, like pre-2018, it said something along the lines of, hey, you're going to be doing the drywall, and it includes a smooth wall finish. But the phrase smooth wall finish means different things all across this country. And it was something that we were enlightened to, especially when we started training and traveling around the country. And so we've saw changes to the drywall linear foot line items to clarify the quality of the finishes included in the different quality of line items. And so we see something similar here. I'm going to jump to the next one real quick because I want to go to the 5/8 plus. I want to go look at, this is the hung taped with smooth wall finish line.
This
item.
One's hairier
You'll
than
see
the
here
former
again,
one, in my opinion.
Yes, well, it just says, first of all, there was no quality before, and now at least clarifies this is for a 5/8 Type X drywall with smooth wall, full skim coat finish, no surface flaws.
Yeah.
And so, Whatley, what are your thoughts on the clarifications to the quality of finishes included in
I
these
think it'll
line
work
items?
70% of the time, 30% of the time. In San Diego, when you say smooth wall, that means level 5, and no drywaller is going to touch that for $479 a square foot. So there's still some areas where there's an expectation due to social inflation or whatever else. What the hell level 5 is, that is intense and tremendously costly. Here where we're from. That said, Indiana stone, I think smooth wall texture can mean something very different. I think it could mean essentially fire taped in non-living areas, right? And there's just been consistent systemic confusion around it, and the price list is trying to clarify it. So I think they're painting with broad strokes with something that'll work 70% of the time.
Yeah.
But I think 30% of the time, adjusters listening to this, I think you've got to be open to the restorer hitting it with a little extra labor. If it's level 5, like a high-end property, it's just a different animal. So do keep that in mind. Be empathetic to both sides of the claim with this one.
Fair. All right, let's take a look at the next 2. These are the base C line items. One is fee base C, one is HMR base C. Stone, we have seen a lot of these line items in the last month or 2 as there's been new combined test fee full service line items. So I'm just going to take a look at the HMR here because they made a change to the additional item information. It's similar to Dry Patch J, if you've ever seen the changes to the additional item information of Dry Patch J since it was originally released in May 2018. The additional item information for that line item tells you what other line items you cannot use. And this line item, as it was new, looks like it needed some clarification. So they've added on a sentence here at the second half of the first sentence. The combined test fee, full service, that's so hard to say. Full service survey base fee line item is not intended to be used in conjunction with the HMR ASBT and or HMR lead. And if we look at what those are, HMR lead, right? HMR lead is for the lead test fee full service base fee. So you shouldn't be charging for a combined full service base fee and one test base fee. But the nice part is this line item does call out in this exclude section sample charges. You are supposed to be charging for the individual per sample charges for each asbestos sample and each lead sample. So I love it when Xactimate's pricing department makes changes like these, that not only it's a new line item, right? It's only a month or 2 old, they're already looking at it based on the feedback they've gotten to explain, hey, you are supposed to use these line items that are excluded from this one, and you are not supposed to use these line items because those are already included in this line.
Stone, has
I
your
love
team
those
already
changes.
authored, developed the rules associated with these new line items?
We have, correct. We have the fee category and we have the HMR category also factored for.
So meaning if you add one of these,
So, yeah.
then the actionable profile is going to remind you to hit it with the individual sample charges.
Exactly.
And if you hit it with 2 full service or 2 base fees, then it's going to remind you that's an overage likely.
Yep.
So, just use the actionable profile. You're set.
Well said. Let's take a look at this. We previewed that there was a change to fee prop. It's just mostly a text change here in the additional item information with some of those language we've seen over time. They've added, this item is based on the average cost. Verisk recommends users verify local cost and make any adjustments as needed. All right. I've always loved that language, especially, it's in DMO, the dumping haul debris line item, right? There's a lot of these line items where they're saying, hey, please verify local prices and make the adjustments.
Yeah, I think that's
needed.
especially important.
You are
because
going to
of
make
cat environment. Like how much is propane going to spike after a hurricane, right? So
fluctuating like
this
crazy.
is a good means of providing some air cover for restorers as they include some warranted charges.
Well said. All right. That's the changes to the existing line items. Let's go forward to the future.
Forward to the future.
It's a short list this month, gentlemen. There is only one thing that Xactimate's pricing department says might be on the horizon as a preview for us. We have seen this item before. It's detaching a garbage disposer in the WTR category. So we will look for that future edition should it arrive. In the meantime, be sure to check out everything that's coming online to you from Elevate. There's going to be a ton of videos, clips, interviews. This is going to be, this video is probably coming out after the conference, but I know that this conference, I think this will be my 7th or 8th year going to this thing. It'll be my 2nd time speaking at it. There's always great things coming out of this conference that everyone should be aware of in the industry. And if you're following us here at Actionable, we'll be sure to be posting about it and make sure you're aware. So in the meantime, good luck settling those claims out there.
Keep building.
Keep learning and growing.